Hello there, dear friend. Come, let's step into the garden together. Imagine the morning sun just beginning to stretch its golden fingers across your backyard. The air is cool and soft, the kind that kisses your skin and carries the scent of damp earth and rosemary. A steaming cup of tea warms your palms. The world hasn't quite stirred yet, but your garden is already whispering stories. This is the kind of morning that invites imagination. You don't need new things to make beauty bloom. You don't need to be young or strong or wealthy. What you already have, is the most powerful tool of all: a little time, a gentle heart, and a spark of creativity. That spark can turn even the most forgotten items, old spoons, bottle caps, worn-out toys, into something quietly magical. A garden is more than plants and soil. It's a canvas of memory, of growth, of transformation. And sometimes the most delightful pieces in it are the ones that didn't cost a thing. An old drawer becomes a flower box. A cracked teapot becomes a fairy home. A stack of rusty cans, lovingly painted, becomes a joyful totem that watches over your herbs. These are more than decorations. They're conversations with the past. Echoes of old kitchens, bike rides, dinners shared. They're proof that even broken or ordinary things still have a place in the story. That's what we're exploring today: garden sculptures made entirely from what others might throw away. Trash to some treasure to those with vision. And I know you have it. That little twinkle of possibility in your eye. That instinct to save, mend, reinvent. As we stroll through today's ideas together, let this be a reminder: your garden, like your life, is an ever-evolving masterpiece. And every piece of it, scratched, chipped, imperfect, is still full of purpose. So settle in, dear one. Let your heart wander, let your hands rest, and let your mind play in the dirt a bit. Because sometimes the most delightful art blooms from the humblest beginnings. Remember those old coffee cans from years gone by? The ones you used to keep buttons in, or maybe store screws in the shed? Well, imagine them again, not dusty or forgotten, but standing proudly in the middle of your garden, transformed into a totem of color and joy. That's exactly what this idea brings to life. Start by gathering tin cans. Any size will do. Soup cans, coffee tins, even those big tomato sauce ones. Give them a good wash and remove any labels. If there are any sharp edges, smooth them down with a bit of sandpaper or a metal file. You don't want anything catching your hands. Now the fun begins. Choose a few paints, whatever speaks to your spirit. Maybe sunflower yellow, soft robin's egg blue, or a cozy barn red. Use a simple brush or sponge to add color to each can. Don't worry about being precise. In fact, the more playful the better. Add dots, swirls, even little daisies or suns. This isn't about perfection, it's about personality. Once they're dry, you can stack the cans one on top of the other. A sturdy rod or garden stake down the center can help keep everything balanced. Start with the largest cans at the bottom, working your way up to the smaller ones at the top, like a joyful tower. Anchor the base into the soil, perhaps in a flower bed surrounded by herbs or lavender. And just like that, your totem is alive. In the morning light, the colors seem to dance. Birds flit nearby, curious. A grandchild might point and laugh, wondering how beans and corn once lived inside that joyful pole. But you see it differently. You see the way creativity stitches together past and present. How an old object once tossed aside still has so much to give. The tin can totem isn't just a sculpture, it's a conversation. A little story in your garden that says, I still matter, I still shine, just like you, dear friend, still full of color, still full of life. Do you remember your first bicycle? Maybe it was a gift for a birthday long ago, or a second-hand treasure you proudly rode through the neighborhood. The wind in your hair, the creak of the pedals, the freedom in every spin of those wheels. Now picture those old wheels no longer fit for riding, reborn as a radiant bloom in your garden. This DIY sculpture begins with 2 or 3 old bicycle wheels. If you don't have them, thrift stores or bike shops often have bent or broken ones they're happy to give away. Clean them off and remove any rubber or plastic if the tires are still attached, leaving only the steel rims and spokes. Already you'll see the floral pattern beginning to take shape. Lay the wheels flat and paint each one in a soft garden palette. Think lavender faded coral sage green or a sunny robin's egg blue. The spokes will catch the light beautifully once painted, almost like veins in real petals. To create the center of the flower, find an old gear, a rusted knob, or even a canning jar lid. Something round and textured, something with character. Paint it in a bright contrast, perhaps gold or white, and mount it in the middle of the stacked wheels. You can glue or bolt it into place depending on the materials. Use a tall, sturdy metal rod. An old broomstick handle or curtain rod works well as the stem. Attach the wheel flower securely to the top and anchor the whole thing into a planter or directly into the soil, ideally where it will catch a good dose of sun. Around the base, you might plant a few wildflowers or low-growing herbs. The sculpture will rise above them like a daisy frozen mid-spin, spinning a tale of nostalgia and reinvention. It won't wilt in the heat. It won't fade in the rain. And every time you pass by, you'll be reminded journeys never really end. They just take new forms. Just like the wheels that once carried someone down a street now bloom beside your basil and thyme. This garden flower isn't just a clever piece of art. It's a reminder that even the wheels of our past can still turn, still shine, and still bring beauty into the present. Every kitchen has its stories. And sometimes when an old teapot cracks or chips beyond repair, we sigh and set it aside, not quite ready to let it go. But what if that little pot had one more tale to tell this time, not of tea, but of tiny magic? That's the heart of the fairy teapot cottage. Start with a broken or chipped porcelain teapot, one that's lost its usefulness but still holds charm. If the spout is missing, all the better. It becomes a tiny chimney puffing out stories. A tilted lid suddenly looks like a roof left ajar by fairies in a hurry. Nestle your teapot near the base of a tree or in the corner of a flower bed. Choose a spot shaded by ivy or soft moss, where the setting already whispers of secrets and stories. Now for the details. Use small slices of bark or popsicle sticks to create a front door. Pebbles, bottle caps, or flat marbles can serve as whimsical stepping stones leading to the entrance. Cut tiny windows in the sides if you're handy with tools, or simply glue on faux panes using bits of colored glass or translucent marbles. Surround the cottage with miniature details, acorn caps for pots, matchsticks for fences, a tiny ladder made from twigs. Even an old spoon bent slightly and stuck into the soil can become a lamppost. Let your imagination lead the way. The result is enchanting. Children and grown-ups alike will crouch down to peek inside. Who lives there, they might wonder aloud. Do they sneak out at night to tend the moss? But you'll know. You'll know that this isn't just decoration. It's a memory of that teapot of the hands that poured from it of simpler times. Now it lives on as a home for daydreams, a cottage for the unseen, a sculpture that doesn't shout but softly glows with possibility. It reminds us that even broken things, especially broken things, can become beautiful again when placed gently in a corner of the garden and surrounded by care. There's something comforting about old silverware. Maybe it's the weight of a spoon in your hand worn smooth by decades of stirring soups and morning coffee. Maybe it's the quiet clink that brings back memories of family dinners and slow Sunday breakfasts. Now imagine those same spoons, not in a drawer, but blossoming in your garden. To create this radiant sculpture, gather a handful of old metal spoons. They don't need to match. In fact, it's even lovelier when they don't, each one with its own patina, its own history. Use a pair of pliers or a small vise to gently bend each spoon so the bowl flares outward like a flower petal. Next, choose a round object to serve as the center of your flower. A vintage drawer knob works beautifully, or even a rusted bolt or marble. Attach the bent spoons around the center, fanning them out like petals. You can weld glue with industrial adhesive or use thin metal wire to hold the pieces together depending on your tools and comfort level. Once assembled, mount your silver bloom onto a thin pole, perhaps an old curtain rod broomstick or metal stake. Push it gently into the soil near your herb bed or along a pathway where it can catch the sunlight. As the sun moves across the sky, the curves of the spoons catch the light and send little glints dancing across the garden. It's subtle, almost like a wink from something forgotten, but still full of grace. This silver flower will never droop. It won't mind the frost or the heat. It simply shines quietly, patiently. A reminder that usefulness isn't limited to a single purpose. That a spoon once meant for serving now serves joy and beauty. And perhaps that's true for us too. As we age, our hands may not move the same way they once did. Our days may not be filled with the same hustle and noise. But that doesn't mean we're finished. It means we've just begun to bloom in a new way, still shining, still shaping the world around us, still full of light. There's something almost magical about glass in the garden, how it catches the light, how it changes as the day fades. And when that glass once held soda or vinegar or wine, it carries a bit of everyday history too. Now imagine stacking those bottles high, painting them in jewel tones, and turning them into a glowing sculpture that lights up at twilight. That's the charm of the glowing glass bottle totem. Begin by collecting bottles any shape, any color. Greens, blues, ambers, and clear bottles all work beautifully. Clean them thoroughly, and if you'd like, paint the outside with translucent glass paint. You can add patterns, swirls, or just coat them in a single hue. The sun will still shine through. Next, find a sturdy metal rod or stake something strong enough to support the weight of your stacked bottles. Carefully slide each bottle down the rod, placing them neck down or alternating directions for variety. If the opening is too narrow, a bit of sanding or rubber grommets can help. Now for the special touch solar-powered fairy lights. You can thread a string of them inside the bottles as you go, or place small solar lights in or on top of some bottles. As evening falls, the entire sculpture begins to glow, not harsh or glaring, but soft, ambient, peaceful. Place your bottle totem near a garden bench along a winding path or beside a patch of chamomile and thyme. Let the fragrance and the glow meet as the sky darkens. It becomes more than just decoration. It becomes presence. Like a lighthouse in your garden, it says, "Here is a place of wonder." It reflects not just light but imagination, the kind that sees beauty in the discarded, the kind that transforms waste into warmth. And as the stars blink into view overhead, your glowing totem remains grounded, glowing quietly through the night. A reminder that when we gather the bits of life we once thought were empty, we can create something that radiates long after the day is done. Do you have a drawer filled with old CDs, scratched music albums, outdated software, or backups you no longer need? They once held memories and music, but now they just sit forgotten. And yet inside each one is a shimmering spectrum of color, just waiting to take flight. That's the beauty behind the CD Butterfly Mosaic. Start by carefully breaking a few old CDs into small pieces. A pair of scissors or sturdy gloves will help you snap them safely. The pieces don't have to be perfect. In fact, the more irregular, the better. Each shard will reflect the light a little differently, just like real butterfly wings do. Next, sketch or cut out a simple butterfly shape on a flat surface, perhaps a piece of wood, a tile, or a slab of stone. If you're placing it in the soil, you can use a stepping stone as your base. Outline the body using pebbles or small metal pieces, and then begin arranging your CD shards into the wings. You can follow real butterfly patterns like a monarch or swallowtail, or create your own with swirls and symmetry. Use a strong adhesive suitable for outdoor weather to glue each piece in place. Once it's dry, seal the whole mosaic with a clear waterproof coating. That way it can sparkle in rain or shine for years to come. Set your butterfly near a flower bed beside a bird bath or anywhere the sunlight can reach it. As the sun moves, the mosaic will shimmer with rainbow hues, violet, silver, aqua, gold, casting tiny reflections like flickering fairy lights. It will catch the eye, certainly, but more than that, it will stir the heart. Because this little sculpture is a celebration of what was once broken, a tribute to transformation. It reminds us that beauty doesn't depend on perfection. It comes from reimagining what we already have. Much like a butterfly's life begins in stillness and then bursts into something glorious, your CD mosaic takes forgotten fragments and turns them into something luminous. It's a mirror of your own creativity, a quiet flutter of art in your garden, and a symbol of how even the smallest pieces can still shine. Every attic, every basement, every garage seems to hold a box of forgotten toys. A doll missing a leg, a wind-up car that no longer zooms plastic gears and buttons waiting for one last game. But what if those forgotten toys could come alive again, not in a child's hands, but in your garden? Let's bring them back as a cheerful garden robot. Begin by collecting old toy parts, wheels, doll limbs, action figureheads, blocks, and buttons. Anything colorful, odd-shaped, or mechanical looking. You don't need a blueprint, just a sense of play. Think of it like building a friend out of memories. Start with a sturdy base. An old lunchbox metal container or a toy truck bed makes a perfect robot torso. For the head, look for a toy with personality, maybe the round cap of a robot figure, a small plastic box, or even the end of a broken flashlight. Add eyes using bottle caps or marbles. A joystick or toy dial can make a perfect nose. And for a smile, try the curve of a toy train track or a bent piece of wire. Use glue bolts or screws to attach everything together layer by layer. Mismatched doll arms become limbs. Gears can form the belly or joints, and tiny Lego bricks or plastic buttons add texture. Let your robot lean slightly like it's peeking out from behind a flower. Give it color if you'd like, spray painted in cheerful shades like lemon yellow, cherry red, or sky blue. Place your sculpture on a flat rock or tuck it among the snapdragons and marigolds. As visitors stroll by, they'll pause. Children might crouch to study its parts, recognizing a toy from their own past. Adults will smile, maybe chuckle, maybe feel a little something stir deep down, because this isn't just a quirky garden ornament. It's nostalgia. It's ingenuity. It's a playful nod to a time when our imaginations ran wild, and a reminder that they still can. Your garden robot doesn't move or speak, but it sparks conversation. It holds the spirit of joy, reinvention, and memory. It's proof that a handful of old toys can grow up into something beautiful all over again. Sometimes the brightest sun in the garden doesn't come from the sky. If you've ever opened a can of soup, beans, or peaches, you've likely tossed that flat round lid into the trash without a second thought. But what if those humble little circles, tinned dull and forgotten, could become a radiant sculpture that catches the light and brightens a bare fence or shed wall? That's the soul of the tin can lid sunburst. Start saving can lids from your pantry. Look for different sizes, small tuna lids, wide soup tops, or even the lids from larger coffee tins. Be careful as you collect them, as some edges may be sharp. You can smooth those with a bit of sandpaper or metal file. Once you have a good handful, lay them out on a flat surface and begin arranging them in a circular shape. At the center, place the largest lid or a flattened tin base to act as the sun's heart. From there, fan the other lids outward like rays. You can layer them slightly overlapping edges like petals or arrange them in lines radiating from the middle. Some can be bent slightly to give dimension. Leave some lids raw and shiny, while others can be brushed with soft golds, bronzes, or whites to create contrast. Use a strong adhesive or screws to attach the lids onto a wooden or metal backing, anything you can safely hang outdoors. Then mount the entire piece onto your garden fence, a wooden post, or the side of your potting shed. Position it where the afternoon sun strikes and watch as each lid catches the light, shimmering with every breeze. The result is nothing short of mesmerizing. As sunlight filters through leaves or dances across the fence, the sculpture responds subtle and alive, like a quiet little celebration of light itself. This piece isn't loud or flashy. It doesn't hum or glow. But it does something even better: it reflects. It reflects sunlight, of course, but also the spirit of resourcefulness, the art of noticing the quiet magic of turning something disposable into something delightful. The tin can lid sunburst is a reminder that warmth doesn't have to come from heat. Sometimes it comes from intention, from care, from the hands that choose to create instead of discard. It's your sun, right there in your garden, and it never sets. You've seen them before, dragonflies hovering in the garden wings like lace, their bodies catching the sun as they dart between blooms. There's something almost otherworldly about them, something ancient and magical. And with just a few recycled materials, you can invite one to stay forever. This dragonfly sculpture begins with a clear plastic bottle, one of those everyday items we toss in the bin without a second thought. Start by cutting the bottle into long curved wing shapes. You'll need 2 larger upper wings and 2 smaller lower ones. Use the bottle's natural curve to your advantage. It mimics the delicate arc of real insect wings. To add detail, take a fine tip marker or a hot tool and etch faint vein lines across the surface. You can also use shimmer paint, or a dusting of glow-in-the-dark powder if you'd like your dragonfly to glow gently in the evening hours. As the sunlight strikes, the plastic rainbow flecks will flicker across your garden like fairy dust. For the body, find a thin metal rod. An old curtain rod or garden stake works perfectly. Paint it in a metallic shade like bronze silver or deep teal. Then use beads bolts or old screws to add character: 2 small beads for eyes, a few washers for tail segments. Wire the wings securely to the body, allowing a little movement so they flutter slightly in the breeze. Now choose your dragonfly's home. Stake it gently into a raised bed beside the lavender or rosemary, or tuck it near a garden path where the sun filters through the leaves. It will shimmer in the daylight, catching the eye of visitors and birds alike. As dusk falls and the light softens, you'll find your dragonfly still glowing, its wings faintly illuminated, its presence quiet but strong. A guardian of the garden. A whisper of wonder. This sculpture doesn't just recycle plastic, it reimagines it. Something meant to be used and forgotten now becomes a symbol of beauty and fragility. It reminds us that even the most ordinary materials can be lifted into poetry with a little care and a touch of vision. And just like a real dragonfly, it brings stillness, presence, and a flutter of joy. Not all garden gnomes wear pointy red hats and carry fishing poles. Some wear gears and goggles, standing tall with a mechanical twinkle in their eye and a dash of old-world charm. That's the spirit of the steampunk garden gnome, part fantasy, part engineering, and entirely one of a kind. This sculpture starts with the simplest of materials, scrap metal. Look through your odds and ends, bin nuts, bolts, washers, screws, small gears from broken clocks or appliances. You don't need much. Just enough to build a small, quirky figure about the size of a flower pot. Begin with the head. A large bolt, a plumbing cap, or even a steel ball bearing can serve as the dome. Add eyes made from washers layered to give depth. A small button or shiny screw makes a fine nose. For the hat coil, a strip of thin metal into a spiral. Imagine a stovepipe shape with a whimsical tilt. Now you're halfway to gnomehood. The body can be built from stacked fittings or threaded pipe joints. Weld or glue the pieces together, giving your gnome arms made of old rods or bent spoons, and feet fashioned from gear casings or flat metal brackets. Add little embellishments like a compass face on the chest or a tiny fan blade as a shoulder pad. The more peculiar and delightful the details, the more personality your gnome will have. Place your creation on a flat stone pedestal or tuck it into the foliage at the edge of your garden. Watch as visitors lean in to study it, curiosity lighting up their faces. They might not know what to call it, gnome robot sculpture, but they'll feel its presence. And you'll know what it is. It's a monument to possibility, a tribute to craftsmanship, whimsy, and the kind of storytelling that doesn't need words. In a world of mass-produced decor, your steampunk gnome stands proud, a one-of-a-kind blend of past and present, rust and wonder. This little figure doesn't just decorate your garden, it guards it, watches over it, reminds you each time you see it that even the most industrial scraps can come together into something unexpectedly full of heart. There's something ancient and comforting about the gaze of an owl, wise, watchful, still. And in the quiet of your garden, one can perch silently, not on a branch, but on a pedestal you build yourself using nothing more than old pallet wood and a few forgotten bits of metal. This rustic owl sculpture begins with slats of reclaimed wood, those rough, weathered boards from pallets that often get tossed aside. Look for pieces with texture and grain, the kind that tell stories with their knots and imperfections. Start by sketching a simple owl outline, rounded head, stout body, wings folded in. Cut the pallet wood to fit the shape like a wooden jigsaw puzzle. Use longer pieces for the body and shorter ones layered outward to form the wings, slightly curved for that quiet, poised look. Now for the face, the heart of the owl. 2 old metal washers make perfect eyes, their circular shape adding depth. Behind them you might place smaller dark buttons or bolts to form pupils. A metal nut or bent spoon can become the beak, pointed and proud. Piece by piece your owl comes to life. You can leave the wood raw for a natural finish or gently whitewash it for a more whimsical feel. Add little touches if you wish, a nail for a feather detail or an old hinge for the wingtip. Mount the finished owl on a tree stump, a rock slab, or a wooden post nestled among hostas ferns or marigolds. As the light shifts through the leaves, the owl seems to shift too, sometimes hidden, sometimes gleaming. Its eyes catch the sun, and suddenly it's not just a sculpture, but a presence. More than decoration, this owl becomes a symbol of wisdom, of watching over what grows, of using what's already here to make something beautiful and lasting. It reminds you that nature and art don't have to be separate things, that a pile of old wood and a few rusty parts can become something that feels alive, and that your garden, like your life, is always ready to welcome a new story, even if it arrives on silent wings. We all have that old pair of shoes, the one too worn to wear, but too full of memories to throw away. Maybe they walked you through a season of life, or maybe they belonged to someone you loved. Now, instead of sitting forgotten in a closet, those shoes can wiggle their way into your garden as part of a charming living caterpillar. This sculpture starts simply: gather several old shoes. Don't worry if they don't match. In fact, mismatched boots, sneakers, or sandals make the caterpillar all the more delightful. Line them up in a gentle curved toe to heel, creating the soft arch of a friendly bug winding its way through your garden path. Each shoe becomes its own little planter. Fill them with a bit of potting soil and choose small, low-maintenance succulents like jade echeveria or hens and chicks. Their rosette shapes and hardy nature thrive in shallow containers, and their soft green and purple tones play beautifully against the weathered fabric or leather of the shoes. You can add personality with a few thoughtful touches. A pair of large buttons or bottle caps glued to the front shoe becomes whimsical eyes. A tiny pebble smile painted on with waterproof paint gives your caterpillar charm. For even more fun, paint each shoe in cheerful colors: turquoise, coral, lemon yellow, or leave them as is for a more rustic, lived-in look. Nestle the caterpillar along a garden border at the edge of a flower bed or under a shrub where it can peek out and surprise guests. Children will giggle, adults will pause, and you'll find yourself smiling every time you water its little leafy spine. But this is more than a playful planter. It's a symbol of how things evolve. Shoes that once carried us now carry life. Their soles, once pressed into pavement, now press gently into soil. What was meant to protect our feet now protects something even more delicate: new growth. This little caterpillar doesn't crawl, but it transforms. It shows us that joy doesn't have to be expensive and creativity doesn't need a craft store receipt. It only needs imagination, a gentle hand, and the willingness to look at the worn out and say, "You're not done yet." There's something quietly poetic about light, especially when it comes from a place you'd never expect, like an old washing machine drum glowing gently in the night. Yes, you read that right. The metal drum inside your old washer, often tossed out when the machine breaks down, has a secret. Its perforated surface, once used to spin water from clothes, becomes a perfect canvas for casting light and shadow. With a little care, it turns into a stunning garden lantern that fills your space with warmth and wonder. To begin, find a discarded washing machine drum. Many appliance shops or junkyards are happy to part with one. Clean it well inside and out. You'll notice the tiny holes across its surface. These will become the stars of your evening garden. Place a battery-powered LED light or solar lantern inside the drum. If you're feeling extra creative, tuck in a string of soft fairy lights. As dusk falls, the light filters through every perforation, casting delicate patterns across the surrounding grass stone or patio. It's like having your very own moon on Earth, spinning light in quiet constellations. You can place the drum directly on the ground near a seating area, or raise it on a metal stand for a lantern-like effect. Some even hang it from sturdy hooks or tree branches, letting it sway slightly with the breeze. The contrast is part of the magic. Industrial meets organic. Steel meets lavender. A relic of utility becomes a vessel of peace. This sculpture doesn't demand attention. It waits for twilight. It speaks softly, and when the garden darkens, it answers back with flickers of gold and silver across the soil. But beyond its glow, the washing machine drum lantern is a lesson in grace. It tells us that usefulness doesn't end just because a chapter closes, that even objects built purely for function can become art when given a second chance. It's not just a lantern, it's a quiet fire in the heart of your garden. A piece of the past transformed into light for today. And just like you, dear friend, it's still shining, still bringing beauty to the world, in its own gentle, meaningful way. Close your eyes for a moment and listen. Can you hear it? That soft, tinkling melody carried by the wind. It's not from a music box or a fancy chime from the store. It's coming from something far more personal, something made with your own hands. This gentle music comes from a wind chime sculpture crafted entirely from old spoons and keys. You know the ones keys whose doors no longer exist, and spoons from sets long since scattered. They're relics of time, of change, of life's quiet transitions. And together they create a chorus of soft, silvery sound in your garden. Start by gathering a handful of old metal keys and mismatched spoons. If you like, polish them up or leave them a little tarnished for that beautiful aged look. The spoons' rounded bowls will catch the breeze and glint in the sunlight, while the keys with their delicate teeth and vintage shapes will dance and tap in the wind. Next, find a base for your wind chime. A driftwood branch, an old metal rod, or even a sturdy coat hanger bent into a gentle arc will do. Tie lengths of twine or fishing line to the spoons and keys, spacing them so they won't tangle but can still tap gently against one another. Attach each string to the rod or branch, then hang the whole piece from a hook tree limb or patio beam. As the breeze moves through your space, the chime begins to sing soft and slow like wind brushing through memories. It doesn't demand attention. It simply waits, and when the wind comes, it answers with a voice made of history and metal and melody. But the true music isn't just in the sound. It's in the meaning. Each key might have once opened a childhood home. Each spoon might have stirred oatmeal on a quiet morning. And now, instead of hiding in drawers or gathering dust in a box, they're together, moving, ringing, shining. This sculpture is more than a garden decoration. It's a story made of parts, a song of second chances, a reminder that your life too is full of forgotten notes ready to sing again. And every time the wind passes through your garden, it brings those echoes to life, inviting you to pause, smile, and listen. He sits quietly by the flower bed, plump, round, and cheerful. His eyes gleam in the sunlight, two shiny bottle caps full of mischief. No, he doesn't ribbit or hop, but somehow he still feels very much alive. This is your garden frog. And he's made entirely out of old tires. Start with 3 tires, 2 smaller ones for the frog's bottom and belly, and 1 slightly larger to form the top of his body. Stack them carefully, adjusting the angles slightly to create a curved, crouched shape. The natural shape of the tires already mimics a frog's wide-set frame, round and grounded. Now it's time for paint. Choose a deep, vibrant green for the base, then add some light lime accents around the edges for depth and texture. A sponge works wonderfully to dab on little spots or patterns. This doesn't have to be precise imperfections, only add to his charm. For the eyes, use 2 large metal bottle caps or lids. Mount them on short rods or old bolts so they pop up above the top tire just like a real frog's observant gaze. Paint the insides white with black dots for pupils, or better yet, use reflective marbles or buttons for a little twinkle when the sun hits just right. Add legs if you'd like, using curved scrap metal or old garden tools. But even without limbs, this frog has plenty of character. Set him near a pond or a low bed of flowers. Zinnias, snapdragons, or daisies work well. He'll nestle in as if he's been there forever, guarding the garden with a quiet, playful presence. Children will love him, adults will chuckle, and you'll look at that old tire and think, who would have guessed? Because this sculpture is more than a bit of whimsy. It's a symbol of lighthearted joy, of looking at the overlooked and seeing potential. Tires were meant to roll down roads, but here they are now at rest, transformed, still giving something to the world. Your frog doesn't leap, but he teaches. That fun can live alongside beauty. That recycling doesn't always have to be serious. And that laughter, especially in the garden, is always welcome. He slithers silently between the blooms, not with menace, but with charm. His body twists through the marigolds, winding past the daisies and thyme. No scales, no hiss, just the warm, earthy texture of old wine corks strung together into a sculpture that brings smiles instead of shivers. This is your garden snake. Playful, curious, entirely handcrafted from pieces that once sealed bottles of celebration comfort and good company. Begin by collecting wine corks, dozens if you can. Each one carries a bit of story, a dinner with friends, a quiet evening alone, an anniversary, a toast. Natural corks work best, though synthetic ones can be used too. Gently pierce a hole through the center of each cork lengthwise using a skewer or thin screwdriver. Thread them onto a strong wire or jute string, curving the line as you go. The trick is to shape the snake with gentle bends and coils so that it looks like it's naturally moving through the garden. You can add beads or painted wooden balls at the head for eyes and maybe a little red felt tongue for whimsy. Place your cork snake low to the ground, weaving it through your flower beds or curling it beside stepping stones. Its muted browns and tans offer a beautiful contrast to lush greenery, while its soft curves feel alive in the stillness of the garden. It will surprise guests. They'll look twice, smile, maybe ask where you bought it. And you'll tell them gently, "Oh, that old thing, I made it from corks." But this sculpture is more than a clever upcycle. It's a quiet celebration of life's leftovers, of the things we once held in our hands then forgot. The corks that sealed our wine and now seal together a different kind of memory, one rooted in soil light and laughter. Like the best kinds of art, it doesn't scream for attention. It simply exists, peaceful, playful, proof that the simple and unexpected can still enchant us. This garden snake won't bite, but it might inspire you to look again at what you nearly threw away, and to imagine what else might still be waiting, just beneath the surface. There's a wall in every garden that feels forgotten. Maybe it's the side of a shed, the bare edge of a raised bed, or the surface of a large flat rock. But with just a few broken tiles and a little imagination, even that forgotten space can come alive. Enter the Mosaic lizard, colorful, curving, sun-loving, and made entirely from pieces most people would toss away. Begin with broken ceramic tiles. These can come from chipped dishes, shattered pots, or leftover bits from an old kitchen remodel. Look for a variety of colors: deep blues, bright yellows, earthy reds, and fresh greens. Don't worry about matching or perfection. The magic is in the mix. Sketch the outline of a lizard on your chosen surface. A long curling tail, 4 outstretched legs, and a wide expressive head. You don't need to be an artist. Just let the natural flow of the creature guide your hand. Then, using strong outdoor adhesive or tile glue, begin placing the tile pieces within the outline. Start with the eyes, 2 curved pieces of dark glass or smooth stones, and work outward. Each tile is like a puzzle piece fitting into the larger rhythm of the lizard's body. Use curved shapes for the tail, angular bits for toes, and gleaming squares for the spine. As you work, you'll see the lizard come to life, rippling with color and texture. When you're finished, seal it with grout, wiping away the excess and letting the details shine through. And then step back. In the daylight, the mosaic shimmers. Each tile catches the sun at a different angle, mimicking the glittering scales of a living reptile. In the rain, the colors deepen, and even in shadow, it holds its form with quiet presence. This lizard doesn't skitter away. It stays basking in whatever weather comes. It reminds us that broken things can be pieced together to form something whole, that scraps can make art, that walls aren't barriers, they're backdrops waiting for a bit of soul. The mosaic lizard is more than a sculpture. It's transformation itself. Slow, deliberate, permanent. A creature born from pieces now curled forever in your garden, where even the cracks become part of the beauty. It starts with a whisper, a gentle breeze stirring the leaves, and then it begins to spin. Slowly at first, then with a joyful twirl, catching sunlight and dancing in the wind. A soda can once emptied and tossed aside now pirouettes like a cheerful garden dancer. This is the soda can wine spinner, light, kinetic, and full of energy. To begin, gather a few aluminum soda cans. Choose those with bright, vibrant colors: reds, blues, yellows, greens. Rinse them well and let them dry. Then, using a pair of scissors and a bit of care, cut vertical slits down the body of each can, leaving the top and bottom intact. The slits should go almost the full length, spaced evenly around the can. Now comes the magic. Gently twist the top of the can in one direction and the bottom in the other. Like a fan blade, the strips flare outward, forming curved petal-like blades. They catch the wind just right, spinning in place and throwing flashes of light in all directions. To hang your spinner, thread a bit of wire or fishing line through the pull tab at the top of the can and attach it to a hooked tree branch or shepherd's pole in the garden. If you want to add a little weight for balance, place a small pebble or bead inside the bottom of the can. You can make several and hang them at different heights, forming a chorus of twirling color that brings motion and sparkle to your garden even on the quietest days. And when they spin, oh, how they shine. The curved metal catches the sunlight and casts flickers across the ground like fireflies in the afternoon. The colors blur and dance. It's hypnotic, peaceful, and completely enchanting. But more than their beauty, these spinners tell a story. That something once emptied and forgotten can still bring joy. That motion and play don't have to come from expensive gadgets. Just a soda can, a breeze, and a bit of imagination. Each turn of the spinner is a reminder that joy doesn't have to stand still. It moves, it plays, it gleams, and it lives right here in your garden in the most unexpected forms. Beneath the open sky in a quiet corner of your garden, stories can bloom without a single flower. Imagine a tall glass pillar, sunlight slipping through it, revealing the faded spines of beloved old books stacked one atop another. Their pages may no longer be read, but their presence still speaks. This is the literary garden pillar, a sculpture made of worn books and a clear protective casing transforming forgotten volumes into a piece of outdoor poetry. Start with a selection of old books. Choose ones with character-weathered hardcovers, curled edges, embossed titles, and aged paper. These don't have to be first editions or rare finds. In fact, the more lived in, the better. Think of it like preserving wisdom, memory, and wonder. Stack the books tightly one atop the other until they form a sturdy column. Then encase them in a clear glass or acrylic box, something strong enough to shield them from the elements. Hardware stores often carry ready-made acrylic tubes or panels that can be assembled into a watertight enclosure. Seal the top and base to protect the books from moisture. You might rest the pillar on a stone slab, or tuck it into a bed of ground cover plants, so it looks like it grew right up out of the soil. As the sun moves overhead, light pours through the glass and dances across the covers. You'll catch a glimpse of a title here, a chapter heading there, fragments of stories once told, now preserved in stillness. More than decor. This sculpture is a tribute. A quiet nod to the power of the written word. To the novels that carried you through sleepless nights, the poetry that once comforted your younger self. The forgotten cookbooks and dusty mysteries that now hold a new kind of magic. In the garden, this pillar doesn't just display books. It anchors a sense of memory, reflection, and creativity. It says stories matter, even when their pages are closed. And in your garden, where everything else grows wild and green, this glass-bound column stands like a lighthouse of thought. Solid, silent, and deeply alive. Because beauty doesn't always bloom. Sometimes it simply stands still, inviting others to pause, look closer, and remember. There's something oddly sweet about chipped mugs. Maybe it's because they once held your morning coffee or a late-night tea. Maybe it's because, despite their cracks and stains, you couldn't quite bring yourself to throw them away. Now those quiet little vessels can bloom again on a tree that never loses its flowers. This is the tree of blossoming mugs, whimsical, nostalgic, and surprisingly elegant. To begin, find a metal frame or create one using wire pipe or even an old coat rack. The goal is to form a trunk with branching arms, simple, sturdy, and tall enough to sway a little in the wind. You can paint it if you'd like a soft rust tone, deep bronze, or gentle green to blend with your garden's palette. Then comes the fun part, the mugs. Look for the forgotten ones in the back of the cupboard or wander through a thrift store for those beautifully odd pieces. Floral patterns, faded pastels, old diner mugs. They don't need to match. In fact, the more eclectic, the better. Use strong wire or twine to suspend each mug from the branches, handle side up. As they dangle, they'll sway and spin in the breeze like blossoms made of porcelain. Their imperfections, chips, hairline cracks, mismatched glazes only add to their charm. Position your tree near a flower bed by a fence, or as a freestanding sculpture in a sunny corner. When the wind rustles through, you'll hear the gentle clink of ceramic soft as wind chimes. The mugs shimmer in the light, their curves catching morning sun and casting playful shadows on the ground. It's joyful and just a little strange, and that's exactly what makes it magical. This sculpture speaks softly about second chances. about how things don't stop being beautiful just because they're no longer whole. It invites us to look again at what we almost gave up on and to imagine new roles, new lives, new blossoms. And maybe as you sip your tea one morning and glance over at your blooming mug tree, you'll smile. Not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. And because everything hanging there had a place in your life once and now, again, rooted in memory, blossomed in grace. So here we are, dear friend, our walk through the garden nearly done. We've wandered past frogs made from tires and dragonflies born from plastic bottles. We've admired spinning soda cans and fairy houses tucked into mossy corners. We've turned teapots into cottages, spoons into flowers, books into glowing towers of memory. And with every step, we've uncovered something deeper than just creativity. We've uncovered the truth that beauty doesn't come from what's new. It comes from what's seen. Because when you look at a bottle, a broken tile, or a worn shoe and say, "What else could you be?" you're not just upcycling. You're honoring. You're giving that object, that memory, that forgotten piece, a second chance to be part of something meaningful. And isn't that the story of life too? We change, we weather, we soften around the edges, and still we shine. We take our experience, our hands, our hearts, and we shape beauty from what remains. We learn again and again that aging is not a fading. It's a flowering. Your garden is not just soil and stems. It is a gallery of who you are and what you cherish. Each sculpture you place, each recycled creation you nurture, it's all a gentle testament to your vision, your care, your joy in finding magic in the overlooked. You don't need to spend money. You don't need to chase trends. What you already have, your imagination, your history, your patience, is more than enough. So tell me, friend, which idea whispered to your heart today? Was it the glowing glass totem catching twilight in a bottle? The owl carved from pallet wood watching over your herbs, or the giggling garden robot made of mismatched toy parts? Whatever spoke to you, follow it. And when you do, please consider subscribing to our gentle little channel where we believe that gardens are more than plants. They're places where old things bloom again, where time slows, and where creativity lives long after the store closes. Drop a comment below and let us know what you'll try first. Or simply tell us which sculpture made you smile. Your words are always welcome here. Until next time, may your garden be filled with color, comfort, and the quiet joy of creating beauty with your own two hands. Happy gardening, dear friend, and may all your second chances bloom.